Well, welcome everyone to the Future Trends Forum. This is from, right now we're coming to you from the NYSCIO conference. We have a whole bunch of people here who are CIOs and leaders in education technology. So we have Sharon Pitt from Binghamton University. We have next to her, we have John O'Brien, the President CEO of EDUCAUSE. And over to my right, we have Justin Cipher, the best named person in instructional technology on earth. And we are all speaking to you from Skaneateles, New York, where we have been exploring what the future holds for technology and education through the lens of the CIO. So what I'd like to do is ask these three very, very bright people what their thoughts are, what they noticed today, what trends, issues, challenges, problems, opportunities that have come across their interpretation. So because you are taller than all of us and smarter, why don't you tell us what you observed, and why don't you come closer and talk to the mic?
Okay.
The mic likes you.
Okay. Well, we had a great day. We had wonderful conversations with university dinners about collaboration and what we might be able to do together. We had a wonderful presentation from Michael Kubit and Michael Cato about the new leadership in higher education IT and what it really takes to be a CIO these days. We had a wonderful presentation from Brian, and I was a little afraid that I might be handed a LifeLock crystal before the end of the presentation.
What's a LifeLock crystal? Tell us.
Google Logan's friend.
Yeah!
So,
well, you're over 30, Josh.
Yeah, I know.
So
no, I'm like 20 years past, so I'd be pretty dead by now.
Can you either grab the mic or can you speak up a little bit more?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's okay. It's we're connection.
Okay. So we had a wonderful conversation today, wonderful collaborations, great reflection discussions with CIOs at tables, but really thinking about the future and what it means to be a CIO in this new environment with all the futuristic options that Brian was telling us about, and all the challenges really that we face as CIOs, from what are the cost challenges that we face, the IT staffing challenges that we face, cloud, new technologies, security, compliance. So we're all going to go home and be very tired.
But we have dinner, drinks, perhaps.
We have dinner and drinks, so maybe a little better.
But before we send you to the death chamber of Logan's Run, let me ask, what are some of the biggest opportunities you saw?
So I really do think that we had a wonderful leadership conversation about what it takes in new levels of leadership. So I think that building teams, having collaboration, working together across institutions, all of these things are incredible opportunities for us. How do we build the capabilities of our staff? How do we not think it's something that CIOs have to do, but how do we do this in collaboration with our institutions, institutional leaders, our teams across institutions, but really working together?
So it sounds like a more civic form of IT. We're much more to your population, more responsive.
Communities of practice.
Communities of practice, but also we were talking. Was it you and I talking on Twitter about open source?
Yes.
So this is like community source.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Did you see the presentation from the Gartner analyst?
I did.
So when he was talking about how to go, the previous IT was central, and now it's more entrepreneurial. Did you find that shift to be true?
Yes and no. I think there are aspects of entrepreneurship, and figuring out how we do innovation is incredibly challenging. Budget constraints, staff skills, those things are all challenging, but innovation is something that we have to think about that's in the fabric of the organization. But in terms of how we save money and how we are transparent about IT, I think is a little different. How do we get out there and tell the university community what it is that we're doing? How do we share where we're putting money institutionally, and IT governance is really a key component of this in terms of how we engage our community in the shared decision making around how we spend what monies and resources that we have, including our staff time.
Do you think that government would be more democratic?
I think so. I mean, I think it has to be because, everything that we've talked about is that IT technology is going out of the hands of the central IT organization. So what does the organization need to become? What is it that we do? It's facilitation, it's sharing, it's bringing knowledge to the conversation and facilitating those discussions. So it is very much like we were talking about on Twitter, that open source environment, a community around how it is that you develop what you need to develop.
Sounds like a major step forward.
I think that's how, but I think that's how it's going to have to be.
Good. Can you stick around for a few more minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Please. Because I want to then compliment Sharon's view with another New Yorker. So if I can yank the camera around this way, and we can bring in Justin Seifert. And so Justin, you are at St. Lawrence University.
Yes.
And you're the CIO or VP IT or?
Vice President of both libraries and IT.
That's right. You have a bio page on both of them.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool. So what did you see? Did you see the same kind of things that Sharon saw? A series of threats like privacy and, of course, security? Or did you see some of these opportunities for collaboration as well?
Certainly. I think the biggest thing that I've been thinking about that aligned with discussions this morning are about our organizations and how they need to evolve around the ways that technology is evolving and the way students and faculty are using technology. And so we need to have agile organizations that can service future needs and not just historic needs. And one of the big things that we're spending a lot of time at St. Lawrence thinking about right now is the term, and I think Gartner probably uses it the most, is a bimodal organization. Our background, our history is as a service organization. And metrics around service are minimum downtime and immediate resolution, and it's a disruption-based business to accomplish that. Yet now we also are a project organization.
Service and project.
So our ability to be a strategic partner on major projects, when you think about projects, it's capacity planning, it's minimal disruption, it's predictability, and these two are conflicting because in smaller organizations like mine, it's the same people doing both of those, and so shifting gears. And so the organizational health and how the organization is positioned to be successful, to not drop the ball from a service standpoint, but be able to deliver on the project side because those expectations are only going up. So when we talk about leadership this morning and the organization, that certainly resonated with me with what I'm thinking about at my own institution.
There does seem to be a couple of different. Quick question. You say small organization. How many staff do you have, roughly?
Well, between the library and IT, mid-60 FTE.
Are you about 200 faculty?
Yes.
It sounds like there's some overlap, though. I mean, the minimum disruption is what you want from service as well. But it's a very different approach. Yet you're describing a deeper embeddedness in the campus. That sounds like it lines up with Sharon's call for an increased community nature of IT. Does that sound related to you, or is there something different going on?
Oh, very much so. And I think so many of our projects now are projects that we partner with functional areas on. And historically, I think IT, if they did a project, it was a self-contained one. And now it's a partnership with a functional area, business area, or even academic area. And so it brings to surface communication and planning and organizational aspects that are out of one's direct control. So it certainly resonates all the things that we need successful IT leadership. And I think it's not just the CIO, it's those around them, because organizations need leadership at various levels to be successful and healthy. And so that certainly resonates with what we talked about this morning.
And what do you find as the biggest couple of challenges that you're facing? Just two.
Just two. Pace of change is a challenge.
Too slow.
Well, I think in some cases, but in many cases, too fast. I think at institutions like mine, a small residential liberal arts institution that prides itself on the relationship and the human factor. What's the role of technology? I mean, we want it to play a role, yet we're not an e-learning environment. So trying to walk that very delicate line of what our faculty are using technology for. And
by e-learning environment, you mean you're not a wholly online academy?
Right. We're not doing full courses or anything, graduate programs, or anything fully online. So it's a complementary role, and it's an important role, but it's not the primal delivery role like you may see in some environments. So thinking about that is yeah,
excellent,
but exciting.
Well, if I may, let me ask if anybody has, as we always do, if anyone has any questions or comments, to either click the raise hand button, which will tell us that you want to come up on stage and talk with us, or click the ask button, in which case you can type in a text that we can then read. And while you guys are thinking about that, and while you're thinking hard about that, let me then add our third guest, who is another extraordinary person. I'm very, very delighted to have three such people. This is John O'Brien, who, now, are you president or CEO of EDUCAUSE?
Either.
Okay.
Whichever goes over better.
The president, and you've been for about 1 year right now, right?
1 year left.
Well, if I could ask from your perspective, someone who works with thousands of CIOs, if you could take a minute and see, what did you observe from spending about 24 hours here, right?
Well, what I observed was what we know because we're in a member association, is that when you get a group of CIOs and technology leaders together, the best thing you do is just get out of the way and let them network and share solutions, share problems, challenges, and you know, there's the magic of the events and the speakers, like you were fantastic, but there's also a whole nother level of magic, which is the conversations outside and over potato chips and so forth. And so I heard a real hunger for leadership conversations. The two Michaels who spoke talked about that, but I think everybody's trying to find the leadership context of many of the real concrete challenges. I think for us as EDUCAUSE, it gets us to think about professional development. I would say probably 70% of the comments people would make to me after a session was to say professional development. How can we reskill? How can we give our staff the skills they need to function as so much is changing all around them? So and really not a lot of, I guess the two Michaels talked about professional development, but I would say for me that's a really overarching theme today.
Sure. Do you find that since academia pays less than the private sector for IT staff, we were hearing 10, 20, 30% lower, do you think professional development is one way that we can keep and hire and attract these people?
There's no question that people love to be at a place where they feel they're going somewhere and have some trajectory. I mean, there's nothing better than a campus when it comes to quality of life. And I just had a lovely conversation with a CIO whose 3 kids will be getting free tuition. So there's all kinds of things like that, but nothing takes the place of feeling like you're a part of an organization that is giving me the skills I need to continue to grow and learn and aim for whatever the next aspiration is. Absolutely.
Sure, did you want to move it?
That might have been. She might have been making faces at me. It's entirely possible.
So we add you up. So please go ahead.
I was actually going to disagree with that. I think it's challenging to compete because, you know, higher education is a great place to be. Staff have a sense of purpose in what it is that they're doing, and we have to solve that more and more. But the corporate environment has really caught up in terms of flexibility of time, the capacity to do telework and remote work, in some cases structures not in place at public and other institutions, particularly in New York, in terms of being able to have remote work and telework, the kinds of capabilities that corporate has really embraced in terms of trying to make a nicer environment for IT staff and really differentiating what it takes to do IT, which makes those jobs very attractive to people going beyond higher education. I think in higher education...
Many of those are things we could never do either, like a gaming console at our cube, not apply in public higher education anyway.
I mean, there's some aspects of our IT staff, from instructional design to classroom support and that sort of thing, that is almost uniquely higher education, but more and more, you know, you've got to talk to your networking staff about the differentiation of what it means to be engaged in research. But, you know, how do you make that differentiation for a database administrator or a system administrator who might be able to make more money and have all the perks of flexibility and remote capability in the same place that you're at as a university? That we really need to start telling this story. And in some cases, we need to pay as much. So that becomes quite a challenge for us in terms of IT staffing and funding for IT staff.
If I could, I was trying to cheer you up before, but now I have to depress you. Okay. I wonder, on the one hand, if, again, as I said before, if apart from a handful of universities, and we have about 4,400 campuses in the U.S., so apart from the top 30, right, everybody else is suffering financial constraints. And so paying IT staff more seems like it might be lower on the list, especially when we have adjuncts unionizing. Adjuncts are just being treated horribly, much less we have deferred maintenance and physical buildings and so on. State governments are not in a position to pay more money in a meaningful way. The other thing is that gloomy thought that I mentioned at the end is if educational technology gets mainstream, if we are accustomed to be able to take classes and programs wholly online, if that depresses ultimately the price people are willing to pay for face-to-face education, we may have even less money. So it might be that, John, your idea of this being attractive may backfire. It may become less attractive. I'm looking at Wisconsin, which is seeing faculty leave all over the place, and the state government is perfectly fine with it. It may be that the mood across the U.S. is that higher education is coddled, and we need to be less coddled. Maybe the mood is to pay us less, and we should get used to it. I hope not, but I'm really afraid of that. John, please help me out. I mean, you see an international perspective, and you work with a whole variety of types of institutions. And you're the one who was saying it was a good idea to offer professional development, which I agree with. Do you think there's any other way that we can help boost the compensation of IT people and try and get us in a position where we can hire and retain the best possible IT people?
You dug about the deepest, darkest hole imaginable, and now you're throwing me in it.
Pull me out, man! Pull me out.
Those are, this sounds like a little bit of a, you said bromide earlier. I mean, I honestly think part of it is higher education coming together and learning how to tell its story better, which I don't think we do a very good job of. And honestly, I think that, I mean, to the extent this all comes down to funding, we can all look at your very depressing charts and see the direction of state investments in higher education and try to imagine from that any significant investment, much less in technology or staffing, is probably a stretch in many ways. But what we can do is first tell our story better with a view toward more investment when the time's right. I think the other thing we need to do is collaborate. And I know you talked about it in your presentation. Justin's got something to add on that too. But I mean, when it doesn't look like there's a financial cavalry coming over the hill, we have to figure out ways to get more done by working together. And I mean, I can think of, in my previous position, working as part of a system, different campuses serving things up for one another, doing professional development events that aren't just one campus, but multiple campuses. I think that's one way. I mean, but it's hardly going to get out of the hole you dug, but it's at least a start.
Well, blame me, that's fine.
I'm got something though.
I want to make sure we don't lose track of Justin. I'm in this great position where we're in a long line, so I'm like a tennis player going back and forth. And Paul and Neil, we have time for your questions in just a second, but let's let Justin chime in, please.
So I think there's a couple aspects of opportunity with respect to technology in higher education. First is to agree that we are changing and achieving efficiencies and letting go of things that we don't need to be doing anymore. Then we're creating our own internal capacity to keep up in different ways than just purely growing headcount. Right. So if we can, and that may be at the heart of our ability to keep up with compensation on some fronts with existing staff, because whatever new resources, we're not growing headcount, but we're trying to do that. I mean, so the degree we let go of things that because of either consumerization or the way the technology world's changed, I think that's a piece of it. I think the other is collaboration. I represent one institution that, as a small institution, really struggles to keep up with information security. So we have partnered with 5 other institutions and are thinking differently about information security in a way that I think we're each benefiting in ways that we couldn't have done individually, both for the value that we're contributing and the knowledge that we're sharing with each other. And so I think you're only going to see more technology-enabled collaboration across higher education to gain efficiencies. And my last point is, in many ways, the services we're providing, the resources we're providing, technology is providing, is at the heart of institutional efficiency. And so in some cases, these services are critical to not be competing, but achieving the efficiencies and costs that we're talking about, because we're trying to create efficiencies across the institution through modernization. Whether it can be achieved or not, I don't fully know, but I think it's at the heart of it.
That's a superb answer. And John, I think Justin helped dig us out of the hole very, very well. I've got a few thoughts to respond, but I don't want to lose people here. Can you see this okay? We have a question from Neil. And Shindig, if you guys could please bring up on the screen. Your question was, what was for each of you, your most important takeaways from NYSCIO? So if we could pick, say, 2 of them, and we just ask each of you guys to just say, what were your top 2 takeaways so far? I'll give you a choice of who wants to go first. No, your choice. Well, Justin, you're on a roll. You're on a roll.
Well, anytime that professionals get the opportunity to interact with peers who do the same job they do day in, day out, it's incredibly valuable. So one of the takeaways is the informal discussions that I've had with people both at very similar and very different institutions. I learn a lot from both of those conversations. And so that's always a takeaway from an event like this, especially when it's regionally based, because we're pretty much all coming from New York State. We do let some Vermonters in. And I think another important takeaway was our last session, which was you. I mean, I've seen you do this several times, and it's always thought-provoking and challenging to us mentally, which is what we need, because the world is changing around us. We can't pretend like it's not. You remind us of that in sometimes very exciting and sometimes scary ways. And so we're always taking notes and going back with our colleagues at our institution and making sure that we're as prepared as we can be for this change, because it is happening.
That's terrific. Thank you. That's really, really kind. So those are 2 great takeaways. Now, Sharon has 1 more or 2 more.
What, it's 2 each, right, that I can do? So I was struck by the Michael conversation, Kubit and Keita, regarding in leadership the importance of politics and culture in what we do. It's not just about strategy, but as a leader, you have to think about politics and you have to think about culture. And particularly for me, thinking about culture as well. What's the culture that you walk into as a new CIO into an institution? How does it hamper you? How does it help you? What can you do to change it? What can't you do to change it? So that's one takeaway. I think probably the most compelling thing that I'm going to walk away from in terms of reflecting afterwards, and it really comes to the heart of what we are as higher education, was something that you talked about, is who are we and what do we do? Are we serving the 1%? Are we serving the 99%? Are we about helping to build skills? Or are we doing something else? And when you think about higher education in many ways being the basis of our democratic society, what does that mean in terms of what higher education is? Are we economic drivers? Are we helping to create a democratic society? Are we helping people learn to get jobs? Are we all of those things? And is each one of us going to be trying to do that? Or are we going to be thoughtful about having a portfolio of higher education capability, which is not really a conversation that we're having now. We're all trying to be the greatest research institution. We're all trying to diversify our portfolio of funds that come in, rather than thinking about how we do this across institutions in terms of what we serve. So I'll be thinking about that for a while.
If I could quickly ask, tell me again your title, because you are new. I can't get over saying this. You are new at your institution. You are the
Chief Information Officer at Binghamton University.
Excellent. And welcome to New York, by the way.
Thank you.
Those are great observations. So we have 4 takeaways. Let me add 2 more from John.
I'll say one that maybe was a minor theme, but I heard it in very subtle ways from multiple speakers, and that was just the value and necessity of transparency. With everything that's going on, the days of IT being able to work in isolation, I think it ties in with some discussions about IT governance as well, and the necessity of IT connecting in new and different ways with other aspects of campus, other divisions, and in some places silos. So that wasn't a major theme, but it was something I kept seeing appear and reappear. For me, a major takeaway was the focus on trends. So that was, I mean, that's a significant focal point for you. I heard Jim talk about, everybody is hungry to find out what does the data say, what are the trends in higher ed, and where do I fit in to those trends, which of course leads me to think of the work we're doing in EDUCAUSE. And so for me, it was an affirmation that the significant effort we're putting into and members put into, because, I think it's about time to fill out the CDS survey. So not for the faint of heart, but it's so crucial. It's so important because everybody's trying to figure out, in the face of these challenges, where do I fit? What am I doing? And as we roll out, we're beta testing now, these new maturity indexes and deployment indexes. It's just another tool to both to reassure that you're going the right way, but also to provoke and ask questions, and also I think increasingly give CIOs and other technology leaders on campus something to use to make the case for investment, and as I said earlier, to tell our story in ways that we haven't been able to quite so much before.
CDS is the Core Data Survey, right? Oh, Core Data Service.
The survey is part of the service. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. This is 6 really different takeaways. It's a sign of how rich this conversation is here at this event. Meanwhile, we have, there's so many things I want to ask about, but we have a question here from Paul B., who's been very patient. Can we bring him up, please? Paul, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Perfectly. Where are you today?
I'm calling from Great Lakes Higher Education in Madison, Wisconsin.
Hey, welcome. I'm glad to see somebody left in higher education in Wisconsin.
Thank you.
What was your question or comment, and who should answer it?
Absolutely. So the question that I have pertains to IT services possibly being outsourced by colleges and universities. So earlier I heard that by cloud computing versus on-premise, so using SaaS, for storage, are there any other services that are looking to be outsourced?
Oh, great. Terrific question here. Let me just give everybody a shot at this because everyone has a different perspective. Justin, do you want to whack?
Sure, and of course this is a dangerous topic, but thank you for that question. It's a great question, and I guess I'll offer a couple thoughts. I think there's gradations of, and you may have been reacting to my earlier term, letting go. And so I think there are gradations of what we can do. First, there may be times where the traditional hardware that was supporting the technology isn't on premises anymore, but the staff are still supporting it locally because of that expertise and the value. The other things are new services that we just couldn't think to try to compete to build and maintain ourselves versus what can be offered by an external party. So I don't see my organization shrinking in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. I do see us letting go of some things and maybe some new things coming in that we don't have as much of a role in as we used to before, as our way of keeping up with growing technology expectations. That, going back to the cost of higher education, we're never going to be able to grow our FTE to keep up with that capacity. So we've got to let go of things that aren't strategic, that they're done by someone sitting at a desk at an institution, and then we can really focus where that value add of people, a part of the community on a campus day in, day out, providing that support, that infrastructure. So it's not black or white, but I think it's a necessary component to our sustainability.
It's a terrific answer. It connects back to some of your earlier points about the changing. I thought of it as changing quality rather than quantity of staff. Paul, let me give everybody else a chance to answer your question, and then you can fire back.
Sounds good.
Over here to Sharon.
Much like Justin, we'd be looking at potentially outsourcing some services. In particular, we talk about letting go of some things, but in part because the letting go is done better by a cloud vendor or cloud service, storage, backup, those kinds of solutions, moving more to managed hosting environments rather than perhaps running those services ourselves, just because they can be done better in a different way. Now, that creates additional challenges for the organization in terms of the skills of the staff and understanding how they collaborate with vendor management, contract management. those kinds of challenges that come with. And in addition, speaking to the importance of the group that's sponsoring our conference day on NYSCIO and what that means for our network services and how we accomplish that. So I think there are many partners for higher education that can do things better than we're doing them now, and why not, outsource those particular solutions out and then figure out, what is it that staff is going to be doing within the organization that perhaps is even more interesting than those things that those companies do better.
Nice. Great. Wow, that's great. We're about to applaud here. John, give Paul a question. Answer that.
I think all I would add and maybe ask New York colleagues about that is to what extent another option, there's continuing to do things in-house that are no longer as sustainable. There's outsourcing to vendors who provide it. Is there also opportunities to collaborate with brother and sister colleges and universities within the state and system? Because that, I think, is also on the table.
So we started out this morning at 7:30 with the SUNY University Centers talking about how we could work together maybe on a science DMT and how we could look at controls for researchers in an area where, we and I know the National Science Foundation is looking at this in terms of how do we aggregate compute networking capabilities. So that's a way that we would collaborate. I would actually say another way to collaborate is within the institution and looking at the distributed IT functions of the organization and ways that they might be able to do things better than we do. And how do we differentiate those roles between distributed IT and centralized service provision?
So this just brings us back to you. Paul, what do you think about all of these answers?
It's very insightful. I thank you all very much for your time. I know that was kind of a difficult question, possibly teetering on, the line of outsourcing. You don't really want to do that, but I appreciate the answers.
Well, it's a terrific question, and I think it's a question that is being asked everywhere, but rarely so eloquently and so publicly. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Now, if we have any more questions or comments, please again either click the raise hand button or click the ask button to either come up on stage like Paul or just to ask us a text question like, who was the text question before? That was not another Paul. That was from Neil. So you can follow either Neil or Paul or ask us more questions. In the meantime, I had some more I wanted to ask you wonderful people about, but did you guys have questions you want to ask each other? I don't want to preempt here.
I have a comment.
Oh, please. I know you're normally so shy.
I just want to take advantage of this opportunity to thank Justin, who's 3 feet to my right. He is finishing out 4 years of service on the EDUCAUSE board, both service as a board member and service as an executive officer, and so he's sort of multiplying his commitment and contributions to the New York IT community with tremendous service nationally, and I just want to take a minute to thank him for that.
Yeah, this is terrific. And you've been in New York for a while because you were at Skidmore before, right? And St. Boston. So you're a lifelong New Yorker. And you're still so polite and nice.
So
now's your chance.
So my question, Brian, is for you as one who's traveled both to speak at institutions and events like this. Are there trends that you're seeing based on either what's asked or not asked of you that you find surprising, that maybe fly in the face of statistical trends and the data trends, and we may all benefit from kind of you sharing a little bit of those insights?
Sure. Some of the surprises are the resilience of some of the humanities. There's a lot of discussion about how STEM is the future and how that's going to take over everything, and that largely is true. STEM growth is tremendous across almost all fields, not math, but the engineering fields, the sciences, biosciences especially. But we still see a lot of love for the need of writing, and we see some persistent interest in history. So it's not as sharp as saying STEM wins, humanities loses. That's one that surprised. Another is how slow we've been to respond to mobile. Most campuses I talk to don't have a bring your own device policy. And when we do mobile, we do it in a very, very basic way. We don't often design mobile first. We move things over to mobile. And it's partly because we're beholden to quite a bit of software that doesn't move when we want it to. Think about ERP systems, or think about LMS, or in library, all the library systems. So that's kind of a surprise. So I showed one slide. It was a quote from a venture capitalist who said, we need to move from being mobile first to being AI first. I can see people start to sweat as they think, well, we're not mobile first yet. I mean, that's one. One that surprises me is the uptick of gaming. Gaming was really talked about in 2007, 2008, when the economy blew up, and that helped knock gaming away. But gaming has been slow to come up, and what's interesting to me is just the contour of that. There's a lot of interest in skipping the PC platform and doing games with apps, which is interesting. It helps reflect the lack of games on the Mac world for a while. But also, I thought we'd see more simulations, because you can have really solid pedagogical results of simulations in sciences and business, and I'm not seeing as much of that. I'm seeing more gamification. People are really interested in adding game tactics and techniques to the rest of the world, which can be dystopian nightmares in some cases, but can also be really positive. I saw a Latin class at a high school that was treated as a giant quest narrative, where you had to solve a problem about a great volcano and the destruction of a city. And so the game was built into the physical world of the classroom, into the online LMS, into the curriculum, into the pedagogy. So you had to learn Latin grammar, vocabulary, and culture while trying to solve a puzzle. So people would get points while they're learning things. What a fantastic idea. If I were 15 or 18, how exciting that would be. That's one. The other thing that surprises me is I can be pretty gloomy at times, because I have to look at all possibilities. And what really surprises me is the combination of anxiety and heart that I see everywhere throughout our higher education. People are nervous, and I'm seeing this at very wealthy institutions. I went to one campus, and the faculty told me that their endowment was about about $900 million. And they were frightened that it was too low, and they were wondering how they were going to survive. And I didn't want to introduce them to the rest of the world, but there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of real concern. And the financial crisis of 2008, we've in many ways gone past that, but things are deeper and more disturbing. And yet, people love this. They're not bailing from education. They really want to keep doing this. This is the good work we're doing. This is one of the reasons why we can get people, why you can get adjuncts to work. They teach a class for $2,000 for a semester of work, because they love economics, history, calculus. And that heart, man, that keeps me going every single day. So those are a few of the surprises. I don't want to talk for too much, but I'm really impressed by that. How about you guys? What questions are uppermost in your mind? It's interesting, the two of you guys, so here, I'm going to turn the camera around this way. So these are two yearlings, right? So both John and Sharon have been in the positions for 1 year. A big move. I mean, geographically, you haven't moved, except you are now on planes all the time, right? And Sharon, you moved up the East Coast. I mean that in every possible sense. So I'm curious, in the transition that you've both made, personally and professionally, what does this tell you about the future of education and technology? You think, using the perspective of Sharon, of a new institution, a new state, very different in many ways. And John, you're suddenly seeing hundreds and hundreds of different colleges, universities, libraries, museums, associations. What are these new insights telling you that you might not have had?
Some of the newest research about student success focuses on resilience and grit. And so, to me, moving from working at a state level, a regional level, to a national level, I think the extent I'm hopeful is to see the tremendous resilience of our institutions, and it's a resilience that comes from focus on mission, and these are people who will do anything for the students. And so when you dig holes, or I dig my own holes, and it gets very grim, I'm reminded of that's the focus, and that's the hope, and that's what is the traction we get in dealing with all these changes. I'm guessing you could find and replace much of the grimness with the trends that are grim and and 20 years ago, we just didn't know how good we had it 20 years ago, but I'm not sure we were any happier or any less grim. The stakes continue to get higher.
Well, I know coming to a new institution and certainly a new state, there's always a huge learning curve. I probably went through this just learning everything that EDUCAUSE did, and of course I'm learning everything that is SUNY, everything that is the university, the new team, the new environment. But you go back to what it is that the core institution. Our Vice President of Student Affairs, Brian Rose, set up a lovely conversation with students who were interested in different aspects of the institution. And so I went one day and I brought my network manager with me because, of course, students are almost always interested in why they don't have a band. But it was an even bigger, far-reaching conversation than that. Yes, the network, but also security and what are the challenges associated with that, and a group of very knowledgeable students about what it is that happens in Ireland. So more effectively. So I walked away with just being so impressed with the students at the institution, which is, you have to get back to that so that you regain your hope in what it is that you're doing. And then asking the question, why were they coming to Gibbons? All because it's a great institution at a great value. And isn't that what it's all about? How do we continue to provision these opportunities for people who want higher education in some way, and what it's going to do, what it does for them long term is still a great deal for the investment that happens. And that, in essence, is the purpose of what we're doing, and how we do it better, and we improve, and how do we bring in innovation. And it's what keeps you going always along this wonderful community of people that we interact with, from NYSCIO to the EDUCAUSE community. It is a lovely community to be in, full of incredibly smart people with wonderful ideas. Wakes you up every morning, gets you going to this thing.
I know we're supposed to just talk. Notice how I grabbed the mic.
I know.
I know we're supposed to talk about today, but I have to say, since we're talking about hope, I assume and hope that James Hilton's going to talk about a similar topic as he did at the EDUCAUSE conference when he was given the award to talk, because he's going to talk, I think, about we know hype is a problem. We know technology utopianism is a problem, but that doesn't mean we can also find hope and energy and excitement and enthusiasm. And I think he's going to get us riled up about that as well.
That's tomorrow morning. Listen, these are fantastic comments, but I'm a little conscious of time. And Emmy has a question. So if I can just read this from the chat. She asks, have panelists seen statistics or data suggesting the importance of student relationships and social inclusions on student success? You want me to read that again? Okay.
To give us time.
So have panelists seen statistics or data suggesting the importance of student relationships and social inclusions on student success? Yeah, please.
No, I haven't seen data in this regard, but I'm just going to throw out a name, Andrea Nixon, who I think has done some work in this arena regarding what it means to feel a part of a community and the interactions that students have on a campus, and what that means in terms of retention and success. I'm just saying this off the cuff of what might be in Sharon's brain somewhere in the back that I don't remember. But, if you have that data, we would love to see it.
Well, the data that comes to mind for me would be the CESI and NESI data. That the whole premise of that whole engagement is that when students are talking with students outside of class, when they're asking faculty about careers outside of class, when they're talking to people outside of class about the books they're reading, that is linked to student success. So that
student experience being linked to student success.
Yeah. Their engagement both in the classroom and also outside the classroom. So.
Oh, that's crucial data. In fact, I was part of a workshop on redesigning curriculum, and someone presented an essay, and one of the conclusions was curriculum didn't matter at all. Thanks a lot. This is going to kill us, but the engagement was so crucial. Relationships with faculty was a key one. But to answer your excellent question, Emmy, student relationships. Where is Andrea Nixon now? She was at Carleton, but yes. But quickly we'll bring her name up. Folks, we are at the 2-minute warning, and I hate to draw this to a close, but I would like to really, really thank my wonderful, wonderful guests. And so if I can yank the camera around. So to thank Justin Cipher, who is going to have to probably join some other board to keep working. If I could also thank John O'Brien and Sharon Pitt, who've been very, very generous with your time. Thank you. If the Shindig folks could bring up the slides for next time, I can tell you what we're going to be doing. We are going to be also on the road next week. We're going to be in Boston, Campus Technology. Maybe 3 guys going to be there? So this is the hardcore world, right? And we're going to be, after I do a pre-conference workshop on scenario building, we're going to have a live session where we interview a few guests. We have Stephen Downs, the National Research Council of Canada, one of the 2 guys who invented the MOOC, among many, many other things. And we'll also have Scott Ranke from Ball State, who's going to be talking about gaming and gamification and learning. And hopefully we'll get some more people on there. So in the meantime, thank you all so much for your questions. Emmy and Neil and Paul, I really, really appreciate it. I'm glad to see everyone here. And let me also thank both the Shindig staff for extremely creative last-minute technological wizardry. And let me thank the NYSCIO and NYSCIO folks for letting us take over the spot, eat a lot of bandwidth, crash through a bunch of laptops, and have a great discussion. So we'll see you all next week. Thank you very, very much. Bye-bye.